Hi, I'm Stella Winston. Welcome to Producer's Profile. My guest is Orville Nelson, a producer for Brooklyn Community Access Television, Beecap. His show is entitled Heal Brooklyn. As indicated by the title, his show covers varied topics on health, from yoga, nutritious eating, fibroids in women, to mental and spiritual health. Orville, welcome to Producer's Profile.
Thank you, Stella.
My first question is, how did you become a Beecap producer?
That goes back a little time. It's something that was my organization, HEAL, Health Education Action Liaison, has existed here for about 9 years, 9.5 years in Brooklyn. And we wanted to reach a wider cut of people. And in the meetings, we would get anywhere from 5 to 30 people. And that's good, but we wanted to reach more, and we thought putting something on air would be an easier way to actually capture some attention and have people get some information.
So what year did you come to Pcat? You said that 9 years ago?
Oh no, Heal Brooklyn is an organization that's existed here, providing information with a twice-monthly meeting for 9 years.
Okay. And so when did your show Heal start here at Beecap?
It started about 1.5 years ago.
Okay. When you started at Beecap, how did you become a Beecap producer? What did you have to do?
You, as anyone, has to come in and take the course, which allows you, after taking either a remote course or a studio course, to then mess around with equipment. And when I say mess around with equipment, handle equipment. It's a prerequisite to get into the studio or to borrow equipment and take it out into the field. So I took the courses.
Okay. Now, your show, Heal Brooklyn, I've watched it a few times, and in fact, I worked as a technical director on one of your shows, and I noticed that your set is usually the same. You have a table with a cornucopia of fruit, vegetables, and supplements, right?
Yes.
And you also have 3 pictures shown. One is of broken chains. It looks like a slave. The other is a picture of fruits and vegetables, and the other has, I think it is a man, and it says Zanu, Z-A-N-U.
It's a man and a woman.
It's a man and a woman. What's the significance behind the set design?
Well, my set design is to remind us that we need to primarily eat well and take care of ourselves and our children and our community, because we need our health and our strength. And also to remind us that there's always forces that we need to fight against. And we can never rest, because when you rest, you tend to forget and think it's all easy street. But the prison industry is here. You have medical abuse here. You have so many different types of medical abuse, psychiatric. You have, like I said, into the hospitals. They come into our neighborhoods, and they're interns. And they basically get practice upon the community. And after a couple years, they leave to go and work in another community, most likely a white and affluent community. And then they send in a whole bunch of new butchers to come in and practice upon us. So that's just one instance. I feel that we need to be more vigilant. And in terms of the broken chain,
yes,
we were slaves here, and some would say that we still are. We buy most of the movie tickets. We buy most of the fancy things, the jewelry, the sneakers, the fancy clothes. And so we're consumers. And what was slavery basically? To produce and not partake of. Now we consume, which is no matter what part of the equation. One, you're a slave and there's no payment for your work. So, quote unquote, the master, the boss, is making out like a bandit. And when you're a consumer and you just give all your money back, the master or the whatever is still making out like a bandit.
What does ZANU mean? Z-A-N-U?
Well, ZANU is, when you look in Zimbabwe, it's a nationalistic organization that's existed for a very long time, way, way back. And basically, ZANU you saw the woman with the tie head, and the woman had a rifle on her, on the shoulder, and she had her hand up. ZANU basically is black power. It's taking care of oneself and one's community, and fighting for it.
Okay, we do have a clip of one of your shows. There are two clips that we have.
From the same show, yeah.
From the same show.
Mm-hmm.
And on this, we'll be able to see your set. And what will the first clip be about? Well,
the first clip, I knew the guest was coming on, and I wanted to cover a little segue into the guest. So what I usually like to do with each show is to start it. In fact, sitting in one of these chairs.
Okay.
And talk about a few different things like herbs, things that are pressing to the community in terms of health. And then I usually will have a guest.
So what guest will we see in this clip?
Well, in this first, the second clip, you'll see the guest.
Okay.
When I'm sitting here at the very beginning of the show, I talked about mental health and what it meant into this country and what it still means. Because even in my community, around my block, I watch very carefully. I'm a watcher. I feel like I'm a watcher. And I see the different people, they get into a fight. I know one young man, he got into a fight with his sister's boyfriend, and the cops came. And before you know it, he was in a crazy house, taking all kinds of medications. Now, he lives in a very, well, I don't want to say too much because he does live in my neighborhood, so I'm not going to say too much more. But basically, when you start to do that, for little offenses that in a white community, it would not happen, especially an affluent white community, it would not happen. And in the particular circumstances of people living so close together,
right,
with no job, inadequate schooling, and things like that, you are not going to get a good result in terms of what the expected outcome is of an individual. So they consider you crazy. But it's not that you're crazy, it's because the setup is causing you to go crazy.
So in this clip, you're
talking about the history of psychiatry.
Okay, maybe we can bring the clip up right now.
That the man who is on the seal of the American Psychiatric Association is Benjamin Rush. But let me just read a little of this to you. Exploitation of minorities. Psychiatry is built on a foundation of prejudice against minorities, particularly African Americans. In the 1700s, for instance, none less than the father of American psychiatry, Benjamin Rush, asserted that African Americans were black because they had a disease. Rush's theory of negritude, and that we should not tyrannicize over them, but rather find a cure for this disease. Let me just take a little break there. So if you can't cure blackness, because, you know, it is a dominant feature. Anyway, in 1970, the American Journal of Psychiatry revised Rush's theory. Okay. In a brief paper written in 1799, Rush was concerned with uncovering the cause or causes of the Negro's blackness. His conclusion was that the black complexion of the Negro stemmed from a leprous type disease. He maintained that by seeking a cure for this condition and subsequently removing the Negro's blackness, a great service could be rendered to mankind. He therefore maintained that the removal of the Negro's blackness would render him a certain amount of happiness, since it was obvious that some Negroes had difficulty accepting their blackness. Open quote, how well they appeared to be satisfied with their color. There were many proofs of their preferring that of white people. The journal was not critical of Rush, but stated that he understood well the impact of physical differences on mental attitudes that is a vital factor in racial prejudice. That was the American Journal of Psychiatry, which still exists today. Volume 127, number 6, 1970, Benjamin Rush and the Negro.
Rush?
Benjamin Rush.
Benjamin Rush. Is there a movement to get him off of the seal?
Well, That show, it's interesting because I recorded that show today. And there is no movement that I know of. But I'm also asking, should there be a movement to get him off of the seal? He's clearly racist. He said black people were suffering from negritude. That's why their skin was black. It's a form of leprosy. And basically, we were not going to be cured because you can never be cured. This is a dominant gene. That's what I said. I raised my hand.
Okay.
So if that's a mental organization, a psychiatric association, why shouldn't they curb themselves?
Yes, they should, and I agree. Now, your opening, the opening of your show, there's a quote from Frederick Douglass, and over the quote from Frederick Douglass, I hear a chant. Why did you pick that particular quote, and what is the chant? And it's in a foreign language. I don't understand.
It's Yoruba, the language that is
Yoruba?
speaking. And the piece is from an 1857 speech. It's an excerpt given by Frederick Douglass. And I don't think we pay enough attention to our history because everything we need to free ourselves has already been told to us by our ancestors. And we don't have to look far either. From Malcolm to Marcus to Frederick Douglass. And he was basically saying that we need to fight and constantly fight and remain vigilant. Because if you do not fight, people will walk all over you. And basically that's what that is saying. Now, in terms of the piece of the chanting, it's Yoruba, like I said, and it's a prayer. And the prayer is each time you say a prayer, you must open the door. You must speak to a particular Orisha. Orisha is like in the Catholic religion, a saint. In fact, the Catholic religion came out of Yoruba. And yet they tell us that all these things in Africa are basically heathenistic and things like that. But when you look, all of their ceremonial things come out of Africa. So you pray to the Orisha to speak to God for you. So you would open it by actually always speaking to Legba.
So every show
is like a prayer for me.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
I'm trying to, my prayer is to get out to my people, to speak with my people. And some people say that I'm, what's the word when you think something is always going on, something is wrong?
Paranoid?
Paranoid. But I think it's just vigilance.
Okay.
I think it's just vigilance.
Now, the production process has three phases. There's pre-production, there's production, and there's post-production. Can you share with us your experience with all those phases?
Pre-production is very interesting because there's so much information out there, and there's so much that I want to touch bases on. And a show is only 28 minutes. So pre-production is gathering information of what I would like to include on the show. And then that's just the information part. Then you have to get your producers.
Okay, how do you do that?
You have a listing of the different producers that are available, and you call them and give them a particular time that you're asking them to come and help you, and ask them are they available. And you must run down a list. And you also want to get people who are good at what they do. You just don't want, you just don't want someone who doesn't know what they're doing to be doing your lighting. Of course, they have to learn, but you want to save your show. You want to, so it's a balancing project. You want to get someone in who can help you to get a show done and done quickly. Ideally, you want to get 2 shows done per 3-hour slot. And most of the time, we get 1 in. At least for me, I get 1 in. Now, the actual shoot is what it is, the actual process of actually doing it. And then there's pre-production, where post-production, where you have to sometimes add music. You might want to insert clippings of neighborhood activities.
Which phase do you enjoy the most?
I'm a researcher. I like researching.
So you like pre-production?
I like pre-production, but when I say pre-production, it's only, like I said, it's a part of pre-production. Research is just one thing. It's not designing the set. It's not calling all the different people. Research is getting all the going online, going to libraries, and looking for information. And I like that. And that's the other part I'm not too good at. When I say good at, I mean I don't like it too much. I don't like it as much as research.
And you do a lot of research, obviously. Do you have help?
No, there's no. I don't receive help, and that's another thing that I'm looking for. If you were to come to my apartment, you see my bedroom is just tons of books and papers and all types of things, statistics all over the place laying around. And in my kitchen, it's the same thing. You can't see my kitchen table. And under the kitchen table is just tons of stuff. I used to have to wade through it. But that's what I like. I love that kind of stuff. I breathe that kind of stuff because when something happens in a community, I can see it. On my block, there's so many people who are ill.
So would you invite volunteers to work with you?
Oh, definitely. I need volunteers. I think we all do, but yes, I need volunteers.
So how would they contact you?
Well, there's a number that's always there on the show.
Well, you can say it now if you want.
Thank you.
Sure.
493-4474, and that's the area code of Brooklyn.
Okay. Do you have a wish list of for guests for your show?
I like a wish list of critical thinking because I get bored now. I was in a coffee shop, and once in a while I might have a little bit, but I go in there and I primarily have tea, and it's Indigo on Fulton Street. And I remember saying to someone that if they run into anyone who is a critical thinker, please put me in touch with them because I feel like I'm starving. Mentally, I feel like I'm starving because people around me, I don't feel that they're critical thinkers. And for me to propel myself a little higher, I'm at a place right now that I need to be around other people, and I feel it.
Now, on that, who is your most interesting guest? Who's best at that critical thinking?
I don't really have a best. All my guests...
Not a best, but the most interesting. Like who really provoked your thinking?
Well, there has been a number of guests, and I really can't say which one has provoked my thinking much more than another. I hunt for guests. Now, there's another tape. There's another clipping.
Okay.
So this one is my latest, so let's just say he is
okay, and who is this?
Ademola Mandela.
Okay.
And Ademola Mandela he was a person who did CNAPs.
Okay, and we're going to bring that up right now. Okay, let's have it.
Is one to keep everything flowing at Locks and Chops there.
And could we get the image of the head, please, of the...
As you can see, each photograph shows different. Each page shows two images of the photograph and a poem. All the poems are firm. There's no hard time, negative. I wish I hadn't have been stories in here. These are all affirming, empowering, uplifting poems about natural hair. And what it's really doing is giving my community, if not the world, a language of speaking about natural hair in a way that it never had before. The only way most of us, and I mean people that call themselves cultural, that know how to speak about natural hair, is a negative way. When I go out to do my lectures on natural hair, I have a question I always include in my presentation. Any of you that speak, that believe you can stand up and speak 2 minutes consecutively about natural hair, positive about natural hair, please stand up. And almost each time it happened, they run out after the first sentence. Most people can't say one sentence about natural hair that's positive, not one. And this is even some people that's wearing natural hair. It's a lot of work to be done.
I'm going to try that because I think I can go on and on and on personally about natural
I would be very proud of you if you can. Most can't. I mean, we have been brainwashed in a very serious way about how, our life lives within a conversation. And if you can't speak positively about who you are and what you are and where you're going, 10 to 1, you have problems getting there and being that.
That's true.
It's more than just thinking it.
Could you repeat that, please?
Speaking, life lives in a conversation. And that's whether you actually verbalizing it or you braille or whatever it can be. As you speak about your life, as people say, you are what you eat, you are what you speak. You are what you see. And this.
Okay. Now, what other topics would you like to explore on your show?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this clip that just went.
Okay.
That was Ademola Mandela again. And what I found interesting with him is he had an idea about natural hair. And to love oneself and appreciate oneself, because health is not just physical, but it's emotional, spiritual, self-love. And he did natural hair, and he went to, not only did he open up a shop and then progress to 2 and 3, he changed the way people viewed hair. Then he went to Albany and did legislation, hired a lawyer to make sure that there is on the books a certain way that technicians, hair care workers, know that there's more than just pressing, that there's more than just cutting it all off. Oh, and it's beautiful, but that's not, but there's more than that. Before there was no more than that. I remember my mother's, my mother always used to have a wig on. Now she doesn't have one anymore, but I remember when it was all wigs. So now we're slowly moving forwards to embrace ourselves and love ourselves. So I like that.
Well, what is your philosophy on health? I didn't really get that from you. In about 2 sentences.
My philosophy on health is let's not complicate anything. If you believe in God, if you're spiritual, then it's all here. You cannot improve upon perfection. And if you eat outside of God or outside of nature, you're only asking for problems.
And is that what you try to put across in your show, Heal Brooklyn?
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Organic means nothing but as God intended.
Well, Orville Nelson, it's been very interesting.
Can I give my website?
Yes, please.
Oh, no, not a website. I don't have one of those yet. It is my email address.
Okay, please give your email.
It's HEALBKLYN@hotmail.com.
Well, I would like, again, to thank you for being on our show. Until next time, this is Stella Winston saying goodbye.
Well, thank you, Stella.